Hey, 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 everybody, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Ooh. That's a radio episode number 92, all about mental health. Mental health, folks. Mental health. Okay. I wasn't that brief, but I got into it. Laugh, we cry. We had a great old time, folks. This episode and every episode is brought to you by Volpe Martial Arts. Volpe Martial Arts. Who are Volpe Martial Arts? Who are they? Volpe Martial Arts is a family, folks. It's a martial arts family. KWs. That's Kitchener Waterloo's hottest, newest Kung Fu and Hapkido martial arts school. My brother, Sifu Adam, brings a lifelong experience of Hapkido, a Korean martial art, and Kung Fu, the Chinese martial art. An amazing fusion, Hapkido and Kung Fu, self-defense, weapons, forms, sparring. We do it all. We do rolls. We do, like I said, break falls. We're doing it all, folks. Check it out, volpemartialarts.com. All right, let's get into it. I hope you have a good time. Hope you have a great Friday. Mental health, folks. I love you all. Thanks for the shares. Thanks for the likes. Kiss your mother. Kiss your father. Hug somebody. Call them all. Call them all when you love them. Tell them you love them. Peace. Lily, take it away. And here we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Fatso Radio, episode number 92. Wow, 92. Mental health, folks. Mental health. Now, that can mean many different things to many different people, and it is going to mean many different things to many different people. It means different things to me on many different days. So today I want to talk about mental health. I looked back and I was thinking about things to talk about, going through all the things that I have in my mind of issues and questions and all that stuff. And I thought mental health, right? It's one of those things that's always on our mind, literally by the definition. It's always on our mind. And it's talked about, and it's talked about more today than it has in the past, which is good, which is great. We're talking about more, there was more awareness about it. I honestly don't think there's that much talk about the connection between the food we eat and our mental health. So I want to talk about that. I have a lot of experience in at least my own version of that, or what makes sense to me with the connection of that. So I want to get into it. Before we get into that, welcome everybody back. Welcome everybody back to the show. If you're first time listening, first time watching, welcome to Fatso Radio. Again, Fatso Radio, the show dedicated to telling you and to preaching and to bang my drum to tell you that fat is not the enemy. Animal fat, dietary fat is not the enemy, folks. It really is not, right? In a diet that's high carbohydrate, high fat diet, yes, it's bad for you. It's not good. You're going to gain a lot of weight. But if you remove the carbohydrates, and if you really, really reduce the carbohydrates at least, but if you remove them altogether, you can do that. You'll see much improvements. Again, I'm not a doctor. Ask your doctor for dietary advice. Ask your doctor if there's any questions around any sort of medicine or any sort of treatments that you're on. I'm not a doctor. I don't want to give you medical advice, but I do want to give you some suggestions, right? Or some encouragement and some motivation even at times to make those changes. So mental health. Where do I even start? I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a specialist in the mind, right? I'm not even a specialist in my own mind. If anybody's a specialist in their own mind, well, good for you. And I wish, teach us, old guru. But honestly, like the whole thing about mental health is that we don't know. I think the first step in talking honestly about mental health is that I don't know. At least that's my first step. And the other thing is that we are constantly learning, and we're constantly finding, some of the truths are changing as we go, but a lot of things stay the same. Some things are rooted and foundational and won't change, which is great. But some things change as we age and our situation in life changes. So for me, I want to talk about the connection, right? It's November. It's a new month. It's another fresh start. Every month I kind of have this thing, right? I don't have anything specific for this month. I want to get back to the basics in a lot of ways. But I want to start out October by talking about mental health and how important mental health is to me. Not just how important mental health is to me, but how important I think it is to talk about it, right? Because oftentimes it's not talked about. And oftentimes, because quite honestly, I think one of the reasons why a lot of people don't talk about it is because they don't have a clue on what to say. And I'm one of those people. I don't have a clue what to say either, but I'm trying, right? This is my attempt, my silly attempt, maybe it's a good attempt. We'll see how it goes. Let me know in 30 minutes or so. But this is my attempt to, like, if you don't think, or if you think for a second that, or even for a minute, or for however long you think about it, but if you think that you're alone and there's nobody quite like you, chances are there is somebody that can probably understand something you're going through, right? And it doesn't mean that I'm not trying to devalue it. I'm not trying to dismiss it. I'm not trying to say that it's not a big thing that you're going through, because it could be everything we're going through is individual, right? So it could be big or it could be small, and you can even identify it big or small. And even the small things that we know sometimes are small, those can still bug us like crazy, right? In fact, some of the smallest things about our personality, or some of the smallest bad habits, or some of the smallest things that we know that we need to work on, are some of the most difficult things to change, right? And some of the things that just nag us on for a long, long time. So mental health, what do I mean by the connection, or what do I mean by mental health as far as diet? I mean mental health as far as the connection. Certain food, I'm not going to go, I can't say for sure, I can't say that certain foods will cause certain behaviors or certain feelings or certain emotions, or put me necessarily into these bad states, but or into a potentially bad state. But I can definitely speak on how they, or whether they help me navigate stuff like that, or whether it makes it worse, or whether it's just maybe there's no connection at all. But I really do think there is a connection, and I'll just start with this. I don't know if this is actually I'm pointing out a connection, or maybe this I'm pointing out habits that I've had. But I know as from a young age, right? And I'm talking like high school, early high school, probably, even maybe grade 8, grade 9, grade 10. I always kind of seem to put it in my mind, the connection to when I started liking girls, or I had an interest in girls. And I don't know if that's when it started, but I know that that's my memory, right? The strongest to me. And what I'm getting at is my connection to food and feeling upset, right? Or food and feeling happy as well. And I want to talk about that later, but food and feeling upset. Now, one part, I'm going to talk about two aspects, I think, of mental health, but one is maybe how food affects us, but then in the immediate, or how we go to food, I think, in the immediate. But then I want to talk about how food affects us as well. So how we go to food immediately, or how we go to food in that aspect, from a young age, I remember, I would say young age, I mean like high school, right? If I was upset, whether in this, like I said, it's in my mind because I remember being upset about a girl or many girls or whatever it was. But if I was upset, I knew, knowing back now, I could see the pattern. I didn't really realize the pattern back then, but I knew that if I would just eat something, I would feel a little bit better, right? And it probably started at a very young age. I don't know if it was from crying or getting attention or getting in trouble or whatever it is, but I knew that if I were upset for whatever reason, and I know specifically there's a couple times where I was either dumped by a girl, or just, not liked, the feelings that I was kind of projecting was not reciprocated, or whatever the case may be. I remember specifically, looking back now, I can see myself sitting on a couch, sitting in my old house, my parents' old house on McDonald Avenue in Sault Ste. Marie. I can just see myself in the position in the room, even facing this, the fireplace, and I can see myself sitting there eating like a tub of ice cream. And I know that's so cliche because everybody said that, right? But that's kind of my first memory of going to food, and being a direct connection to something that I went to that made me feel better, right? Now, I did at the time, I don't feel like I got a high from it at all, right? But then again, if you're low, a high may bring you up to baseline, or whatever you perceive as a baseline, or acceptable level, or whatever, right? So although I never felt like it as a drug in that sense, it did feel like a medicine a little bit. Not at the time, but looking back now, it must have acted a bit like a medicine. So I remember doing that. I remember, like, not to say that I, had a lot of heartache in high school, but just for whatever reason, right? I mean, I remember I had fights with my parents. I got in trouble, or I stayed out late. I got in trouble, or broke curfew, or whether I did poorly in school, bad grades, or whatever. I remember, food being such a part of a comfort for me, right? And I don't know, like I said, I don't know exactly where that started in childhood or whatever, but it's powerful. And I remember that, and I still to this day can see the patterns, and can remember the patterns, the events, that kind of led me to eating food. Now, on the other side, food was also something that I would go to, and still, people do, and I do still go to when you're excited or when you're happy. And a lot of that is our customs, right? A lot of that is our tradition, where you're having a party, you want to celebrate, you want to make cake, you want to have a feast, you want to go out and all out, rather, and have those things that you didn't have before. So even for myself, my own little microcosm, like, I'm someone, I mean, if you don't know this, I know, but I'm Carlo, but I'm someone that can have a little bit of, my own little microcosm, like everybody else does, but my own little microcosm of, I'll do this and I'll kind of do it extreme. I'll do this, I'll do it really a lot, whatever. Right. So I guess what I'm getting at is that, I took my own little version of that, and it really resonated with me, like, negative or positively. Right. But, when I was happy, I went to food, right? When even myself, like, so even we're outside of a party or outside of a festival or outside of a celebratory dinner, we won a championship. I know we didn't win any championships, but we won a big game, or we, you know, we had a great night. The boys are happy. We're all going out. We had a great game, whatever it is. We crushed the opponents, whatever. Um, we would go out and we would either drink if we were drinking age, or, you know, if we had somebody else to help us out drinking. Andy, I'm looking at you, Andy. Um, or if, you know, it was always, you know, food and decadent food and desserts and all this stuff. But I'm talking about personally. So even at the personal level, if I was happy, or if I was excited at night, you know, or then when I came back, I would also then indulge in food because I was happy or excited. Oh, you know, I want a little treat. Maybe not the same night as I went out there, but also if I was happy or if I felt like I was in love, or maybe not in love specifically, but the feelings around those positive feelings. I know that oftentimes I went to, and I turned um, um, to sweets, you know, and junk food, and not as a coping mechanism, but maybe just as a regular. I'm not even sure the reason why we do that. Maybe like as a reward, or as a like a patting yourself on the back for being happy. Maybe that's some sort of a weird natural kind of evolutionary thing that we reward ourselves for being happy. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe we do that. But so the connection for me in that sense has been around for a long, long time, right? Even, and I've talked about this in the past, but even as I was losing weight in the keto diet, in the carnivore diet, even before that, the paleo diet, when I would reward myself with treats or junk food or crap. And when I say reward, I get so, this is a mental health episode, right? So I have to be, and I'm always honest, but I'm going to be completely honest. I say, when I say reward, I get so frustrated. I get so angry because it's not a reward. But at the same time, as soon as I'm saying that, I'm realizing, and I'm reminding myself that, okay, where's the mental health part in this? You can't be obsessive about it, right? Or I can be, but I shouldn't be, rather. Or maybe I should focus on the fact that it does take more balance, because the mental health part of it is important, right? Just as important. And I want to get to that in the end if I can, kind of tie it all together. But you know, I would go to it in the happy times and in the bad, sad times, and even during my weight loss, where I would go, and I've talked about this, but I would, you know, have 2 or 3 months maybe of success, whether I lost weight or not, but maybe I shrunk my waist size or my pant size, or I just felt better overall, and then reward myself saying, Carlo, good job. I mean, sometimes I literally said that to me out. Good job. You did a great job. You lost 20 pounds there, buddy. Let's go have whatever the case is, right? Dessert or ice cream would have been the worst. And I remember that, especially if I was eating clean for a while and I had some like crappy dessert. I'm not going to say where I got it from, but crappy ice cream. Let's just say it wasn't homemade, right? Full of preservatives, full of artificial shit. And it kills you if it, not everybody, right? But it killed me. And what that taught me, again, this is experience. This is what happened to me. What that taught me, and what it kept on teaching me, and it still teaches me. I still get reminders. I'm 5 years into this diet, maybe lost 120 some pounds again, but it still happens to me. And this is all about it, right? This is the mental health stuff, right, folks? So where was I? Okay. Even along the weight loss, like I said, I would reward myself. Bad reward's a bad word, but I would do that. I would reward myself for doing so well, feel like shit, and then I would feel like shit, and that would make me, and that would not help, right? That would not help. I would do that. I would reward myself through the journey, and that wouldn't help. So I'm going to get into why it doesn't help. I've talked about this before, but I want to talk about it again. It didn't help for me because as I was rewarding myself for doing something good, so taking 3 steps forward, this reward, which hurt me, and I chose the wrong rewards possibly, right? But it's something that I kind of had to learn the hard way. And I'm still learning the hard way, but it takes a long time. I mean, it took me 20 some years to try and lose weight. So as I was rewarding myself, I was getting more hurt, and I was hurting myself. I was hurting myself because like here's a different connection with the body and the food, and the mind and the body and the food. In this scenario, the food I ate as a reward for good behavior hurt my body. In turn, because it hurt my body, even if it's just bloating or gas, that's hurting my body, right? If you're not optimal, and I like to feel optimal, folks, I don't want to go tangent, but if you felt optimal, you want to feel optimal. right? And I want to feel optimal all the time because I feel it mostly, right? Most of the time now. So anyway, I would get so upset because, so anyway, here is double whammy because I would do well for a month or two or what have you, cheat. The food that I chose to cheat with, or the crap that I chose to cheat with, made me feel bad physically, digestion or whatever, even if I just didn't sleep that well, or if my joints were a little achy or what have you. That would hurt my body. That would then in turn hurt my emotions, and it would make me depressed, right? A little bit, right? I would be like, well, shit, I feel like shit now. I'm not motivated to go to the gym. So even times I would go to the gym, that would help a little bit, right? But it's really hard to go. It's really hard to go when you feel like shit because you've eaten something that makes you feel like shit, right? Not only did it make me feel like shit, so I feel that kind of pain, right? It's not a huge pain, but I also knew that it put me 2 steps back, right? So what's the other side of that? The other element of that is that I can't or I shouldn't let that stress me out so much. But here's my take on that. I know the solution to that is if I don't do that as often, I won't have to deal with that stress that often. And the less often I do it, the less often I have to deal with this, right? So it's not a matter of dealing with that all the time. So I get used to dealing with that stress or dealing with that guilt. No, it's a matter of doing it less and less often. So I get less and less of the urge. And that's the part that's really nice about this connection is because if I do stay away for not only 30 days, but 60 days or 90 days, and I don't reward myself, reward in quotation marks, negative quotation marks, if I don't reward myself with the treat, with the junk, with the carbs that would then make me feel bad physically, would then make me feel bad emotionally, which then make me feel bad guilt-wise, and then put me 2 steps back from a diet perspective anyway, which will then help hurt the whole emotional train anyway. If I don't do that and I stay strong, I take all of that potential negative and all that work and energy and anxiety, right? And just energy, all that energy that was used to hurdle myself and do that mental gymnastics to get back to a state of health again or a state of being on track again, right? So that should help. So not only feeling guilt, because for a long time I wrestled with the idea of staying on track because I want to avoid guilt. Guilt doesn't work. Guilt doesn't work. I would just either not be guilty about it. Wow, easy for me to say, I'll just own it, right? Or I would just feel guilty. I don't know. Like it doesn't work like that for me, right? But we try, and it's a battle, right? It's a battle. It's a battle. It's a battle. The idea of mental health and the idea of connection to food. I mean, so aside from there's a bunch of scientific data that will tell you that good bacteria and bad bacteria in your gut, right? If you eat certain bacteria, it will feed the bad bacteria, and certain good foods will feed the good bacteria. There's a bunch of data out there in the scientific community. Go search for it. That says certain food you eat will have a connection and have a bad connection or a bad reaction rather to certain neurotransmitters and the gut-brain connection. There's a whole bunch of data on that. So aside from that, I'm just going to tell you kind of how it works for me, right? And that's what I've been saying. So if I had a cheat after 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, and I felt good and proud of that, that accomplishment, I had a cheat, it made me feel like shit and made me go bad or made me feel like shit and then kind of took me 2 steps forward. So I want to talk more about how are the ways that we can combat that. So I kind of describe how that works for me, right? And really still to this day, I'm going to say, and I'm going to be completely honest, I'm not 100%. I can't be 100%, right? But for me, the key to success with this is having most of your days be 100%. And if you do have a day where you feel like you're going to go off course or whatever, like I say all the time, have something that's a little bit off course, not completely off course, right? Or have that one off course, then get back again. And that's what I want to get into next. Part of, I think, one of the biggest things or biggest parts of the mental health game with the diet and being on track and having the fortitude, the mental fortitude, the willpower per se to stay on track and to get to your goal, right? Part of that is really, in my opinion, is just getting really good at getting back on the horse, right? Getting really good at getting back on track, right? So it takes a long time for people to learn how to get on track and to see results from being on track. Because I truly believe that it takes your body some time of a repetitive pattern, right? I truly believe it's either 14 or 28 days or maybe it's 30 days, maybe it's 90 days or 60 days or 90 days. I know Scotty, I need another episode with you, Scotty Fitzsimmons from way back a few episodes ago, many episodes ago rather, but it takes a certain amount of time for your body to get used to this, right? And I think that it also takes a certain amount of time for your mentality, for our brains, our minds to get used to this, and also to get better, right? It's proven, everybody knows that the more we do something, the better we get. The more we practice something, the better we get. So what's the best way to get better at getting back on track is to just keep on getting back on track, right? I think, again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, but I think there's probably some truth to that as far as from a mental health perspective, right? Not just mental health with food, but mental health in general. If we're all on a spectrum, or if we're all on, or if we all go through swinging battles rather, or swinging days where it's good and bad, we find ways to navigate, right? Or hopefully we find ways to navigate, to cope, maybe more better navigate than cope rather, but find ways to navigate and to navigate ourselves to a place of whether it's a calmer mental state or a healthier mental state. And I think the same thing with diet. It's all connected, right? So for me, and for a lot of people I talk to, they feel good and they feel better when they're on track. Right. And I feel better specifically when I'm on track. I can really only speak for myself. So when I talk about getting better at getting back on track, that's exactly what I mean. You're human. You're going to have the time where you're either giving yourself a reward because you've done well, which is okay, right? I don't plan those obviously, or you find yourself just, you're not gonna be able to eat carnivore or keto or social pressures or whatever. Like, again, it's mental health, right? But instead of always kind of giving in to society, or giving into society, sometimes it's just a room of 15 of your family or 15 of your friends or 10 of your family or even 4 or 2 of your family, instead of always kind of conforming and kind of not speaking up, maybe a part of this should be about speaking up as well, right? So your mental health is important. And if you have a connection between your mental health and your diet, which you will, if you dig deep enough, I believe that you'll find a connection, then it's our duty to speak up, right? Speaking up to say, hey, I want to lose. It's not just, hey, I don't want to eat this crap, not just because I want to lose 100 pounds or because I need to lose 100 pounds, but also because I feel it makes me feel better. I have better clarity in my brain, right? I think smarter. I think better. think smarter. I think better. I perform better physically, right? And if you're doing all that stuff and that stuff helps your mental health, of course it helps your mental health, feeling better, sleeping better, performing better. If this stuff means a lot to you, then you're going to feel better mentally, right? Who doesn't feel better when you sleep better? Who gets up from a 8-hour sleep or 7-hour sleep or 9-hour sleep, whatever you get, and it's a great sleep, memory says, oh man, that was a great sleep, but I don't feel any better. Of course you feel better, right? Mentally, right? And when you're feeling better, when you're feeling better, it keeps you motivated. It keeps that ball rolling, the ball of momentum, right? It keeps it going. So again, back to, without going too far, back to getting better at getting back on the horse and getting good at getting back on the horse. Just like getting good at diet, we have to learn the certain diets, how many carbs are in this or how much sugar is in this. Again, once you get to a carnivore diet, if you do that, try the carnivore diet in a healthy way, responsible way. Once you get there, it's easy. It's so easy. And getting back on the diet is easier when you have less of a complex diet, right? When your diet is simple and it's meat and salt, organs and meat, meat, but organs and meat, then it's simple, right? And that's the other thing, is that when I went to the carnivore diet, I spoke about this many times, but when I went to the carnivore diet, it made it easier for me to stay away from the garbage. It made it easier for me to go back to the garbage. Sorry, to go back to real food after I did have the garbage. But I will tell you, even on the carnivore diet, and I felt this even the most on the carnivore diet, and I don't understand this, but maybe some expert can tell me. But when I was on the carnivore diet and still being on the carnivore diet, if I go off the diet and if I have some sugar, especially if I have quite a bit of sugar for that day, I'm turned off of meat completely for a couple of days. I don't know what that's like. I don't understand the explanation. I don't understand why, what I'm trying to say. I don't understand that, but there's something to that, right? So again, not to harp on this too much, but mental health, folks, mental health is there is a connection. There is a connection with your food. For me, again, I want to expand a little bit more just on me. When I eat sugar, I don't feel good. Okay, let me expand on that. When I eat too much sugar, right? When I eat too much sugar, I don't feel good. When I eat too much, when I eat too much dairy, I don't feel good. When I eat too much breads or pastas or cakes or pastries or donuts or pizza or what am I getting at? When I eat too much of anything, I don't feel good, right? Here's the kicker though. And this plays into the mental health part more than the nutritional science part of this. I can't eat too much meat unless I add sugar into it, or unless I add some other carbs into it. I just can't eat more meat than my body needs. I can't eat more meat, more plain animal products, even with salt, right, and water. I can't have more. I refuse to eat it. I can have a shitload of pie. I can have a shitload of pizza. I can have a shitload of pasta. I have over the years. I can have pastries and cookies and rice and potatoes and all of this stuff. What is it? We know there's something crazy about sugar, but what is it? Well, how does that play to our mentality? How does that play to our emotions? How does that play to our mental health? Right? This is a mind fuck for me. Excuse my language, but part of my battles is making sense of all of this, making sense of how we live in a world, and I live in a world where we're surrounded by sugar, surrounded by highly processed, whether it's high fructose corn syrup or just glucose, whether it's fruit, excuse me, whether it's grains, we're surrounded by this stuff. And for me, it's hard for me to stay away from it. It's hard for me to stay away from it if I have a little bit. It's hard for me to moderately eat carbohydrates. It's hard for me to do it in a moderate way, like everybody says, right? Moderation. Excuse me. It's really, really easy for me to moderate steak, to eat it moderately. Well, I can even try and eat a high amount of steak, and it's self-moderating. It's self-regulating. It's you eat a steak, I eat a steak, and I can't eat another steak. I can eat maybe another half a steak, right? Another bite maybe, or two. I mean, obviously this is relative to how big the steak is. I can eat basically a pound of meat a day, maybe 2 pounds of meat a day. But unless I'm doing something fancy, unless I'm working out, unless I'm doing something that requires that's kind of burning a lot of energy, I just can't eat that much. But the funny thing is that when I do more exercise, and when I do more activity that is burning the energy, or having those breakdown in the muscles, when you exercise and when you move, right, there's tiny tears, and you break down your muscles. Your body has to repair itself. It needs protein to repair itself. It needs fat for energy, right? And when I do more exercise, I can eat more, and I need to eat more, and that makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint, right? If you're hunting more, if you're exercising more, you need to eat more. It doesn't make sense evolutionarily that we would move a lot and burn a ton of energy when we wouldn't need to. Think about that for a second, right? So if we were running all day long, or not running, but rather if we were lifting stuff and building stuff and all that stuff, we need to have food. We need to have energy, right? So without going too far, again, off another topic, but again, it's a mental health issue, mental health issue. Maybe it is a mental health issue, but it's a mental health episode. And I want to talk about everything. Again, the mental health, it's the battle for, just mental health in general, right? We have days where we just get up and sometimes we just don't want to get out of bed. Some people, right? Some people have a hard time going to work. Some people have a hard time in their relationships. Some people have a hard time with addictions. It's real, folks. Everybody has an issue. Everybody has at least the possibility, of course, at least the possibility of an issue, because, excuse me, I'm going to pause here for a second. All right, I had a drink, I'm good. But yeah, everybody has an issue, or potentially has, issues that we deal with. And how do we deal with it? I want to talk about a little bit about my advice on mental health, again, with diet. Firstly, do the experiments. If you do an elimination diet, one of the things you may find out when you eliminate certain foods is how you feel, right? How you feel mentally, how you feel cognitively. That's another thing. If you feel smarter by eating a certain way, you don't think it's going to put you in a better mood? You don't think it's going to help your emotions? That could possibly get you out of depression if you're depressed? Of course. What's depressing about feeling smart? Unless you're cluing into something that's, you just realize the world is just shit and we're all in trouble. But anyway, that's for another podcast. But really feeling better and feeling smarter and feeling optimal or more optimally is a mood enhancer, of course, and is just general good for our mental health. So the connection people feel oftentimes, excuse me, the connection people feel oftentimes does get mitigated or does feel better when they change their diet. If you're one of those people that feels better when you're eating a certain diet, you're eating a certain way, identify that, honor that, respect that, talk about that, either with yourself or with someone else, but make that part of your life, make that part of your realization, your awareness, because that's going to keep you, that's going to help, that's going to be one of your tools, right, to help you navigate. And that's what I got to kind of wanted to bring this full circle around to, is that if you have tools, if you have equipment that can help you navigate, right, mental health issues or mental health episodes, and if one of these tools or one of these techniques that can help you navigate is the food you eat, then by gosh, by God, eat it. Eat the right food. Do that. Take notes and follow those notes, right? Investigate, experiment, be your own scientist. If you know that you eat this food and it makes you feel like shit, man, it's just for whatever reason, it just puts you in a bad mood, try not eating that for a month. Report back. Let me know. Again, I'm not a doctor, right? But if this is common sense stuff, try this. Any sort of bad behavior, any sort of food that you know that bothers you, try it. Try without it. See if it affects your mental health as well. See how it does it, because I think it will help. And then on the other side as well, the idea, just to touch again on the idea of like not getting too stressed about diets. I can talk forever on that, because there's different sides to that, and there's different sides of that argument or different sides of that discussion, depending on where you are in your journey as well. If you're in a health journey or if you're on a weight loss journey. And what I mean by that is, years ago, when I was 320 pounds, 330 pounds, if someone would have said, hey, don't stress out too much about losing weight, because stress is bad for you. Okay. Yes, they're right. They're right. So when I was 30 years old, and I was 330 pounds, and if someone would have said to me, if someone saw me working out, or if someone saw me stressed out or whatever, trying a new diet, they said, and people just say this out of love, so I get it. But if someone says, don't stress too much because stress is bad for you. Okay, I get that. As the time changes, right, and as things go on, if you start seeing a result, or if you get into something, if you read up on some information, or you wise up on some information that helps you, then you start changing. Or if potentially you start changing, and then maybe then that phrase, you can, don't let it stress you out too much, maybe that makes a little more sense, because now you have the tools that get you there, but try and have some balance. And that's very, very difficult to do. That's very difficult, especially for someone who, excuse me, if you're someone who is a bit of an extremist, right? And oftentimes people, not oftentimes, but sometimes people who are overweight, is because they like to eat, right? Or, they also like to do other things, right? And for me, I'm one of those people. I like to eat. So if there was a food that I ate, or a food that I found rather that I liked, I was just going to eat it, and I liked it, right? Even if it was not that bad for me. I mean, the science was never settled, right? Who knew that eating 3 bowls of pasta was bad? Who knew that eating bread all day was bad? Who knew that eating rice all day and potatoes all day was bad? Yeah, I know. Every time you wanted to say that, or anytime anybody tried to have an argument about that, it was like, you need glucose for your brain, you need carbohydrates. Okay. Yeah, but we needed a fraction of it. And that's the problem. We live in a world where a fraction of the carbohydrates we need, the fraction of the carbohydrates we have availability to is what we actually need. So for example, if we have availability to get, I don't even know what I'm trying to get at, but if the average American or the average Canadian, the average Westerner or Easterner or whatever they eat, but if we eat, a pound of sugar a day, maybe we should be eating a tenth of that or less than that even, right? So that's kind of my point, is that a pound of sugar or a pound of carbohydrates is 454 grams. A lot of people eat 30 grams or less, right? Even under 100. So that's a quarter of it, around 100, right? So that's the idea, that we should probably eat a lot less of it. But the idea, again, back to the stressing out again, and sorry if I'm all over the place, but you don't want to stress too much about it, but being overweight is stressful. Having to deal with health issues because you're overweight is stressful. Being obsessed with things is stressful. I don't know. It's a combination of everything, and it's complex. The food you eat has a connection to how you feel. how you feel has a connection to what kind of food you're going to eat. The kind of food you eat also has a connection to the food you're going to eat next. It's complicated, right? It's complicated. And the food you're going to eat next also has impact on your motivation, also has impact on your ability to stay strong, potentially. And maybe it doesn't. Hey, if you're one of those people that can eat whatever the hell you want and still get all the results you want, you're probably not listening to this podcast. But if you are a human being and certain foods affect you differently, right? Like most people I know, then try it out, because our mental health, I mean, we've been saying it, we've been hearing about it for years, and it's such a cliche, but it's not a cliche, but it sounds like it because we've been saying it. But our mental health is so important. It's everything. Well, if you don't have your mental health, what good are you to yourself? I'm not saying you're not good to society if you don't have any mental health, or if you have mental health issues. That's not what I mean at all, because I have mental health issues. A lot of people I know have mental health issues, and the reality is that it's your own comfort, right? It's your own health. It's your own idea and your own maintenance of your own health. It's your own responsibility to at least check in and try, right? To try to maintain your own health as an adult. We all need help. We all need help from brothers and sisters and fathers and mothers and aunts and uncles. And that's my next point, right? Mental health. You can't have mental health. I honestly don't believe you can have solid mental health being alone. We're animals, we're humans, we're a race of people, we're one race, we're humans, we're Homo sapiens, right? We're one race of people that belong together. We are people, we're tribal people, maybe too tribal at times, of course, right? But we are people that belong in groups. We are social, dynamic animals. We are very social, and we need social interactions. We need the dynamic interactions between humans of different ages, of different sexes, of different cultures, different origins, different languages, different foods, different smells, different music, different orientations of every aspect. Mental orientation, your intellectual, your preferences for academics, or your preferences to arts and trades, which are art, and all of this stuff, right? Diverse, complexity, multicultural, multi-everything. That's who we are, right? We are multi-health, multi-mental health. That's what we are. And it takes all of us to have a full, like you said, like the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, we're all children. We're all children, just at different stages. So it takes a village. And it's, excuse me, I'll tickle my throat. It's no different for food. I honestly think there's no different for food and for mental health, and even that connection to expand this to the idea of recruiting, like I say, and bringing people on your journey with you. There's a lot of people who want to be on this journey, and would wish that they're on this journey and wish that they have an on-ramp. That's the honest truth. If you know people that wish they had an on-ramp to some good health, or to at least better health, right, in their mind, whether it's weight loss, whether it's mental clarity, whether it's joint pain, whether it's gut health, all that stuff. A lot of people need an on-ramp, and this can be an on-ramp. Please share it with them. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This takes a community. This takes a village. I always say it again. Back in episode number 38, was it episode number 38? That was episode number 38, over a year ago now. I talked about mental health. I talk about probably the same things, very similar things. It takes a village. It takes consistency, right? It takes information. It takes planning. These types of things help with every type of goal, or every type of aspect of you, or every type of solution, every type of issue that you have, whether it's a financial issue, or whether it's, a sports thing, or whether it's a new skill you want to learn, right? You need to put the time in, right? You need to put the work in. You need to say no at times as well, right? You need to be hard. You need to have tough love. Your mental health is about tough love too, right? When I say that, I don't mean you have to pull your socks up and suck it up. That's not what I mean. But tough love comes at certain times. Tough love can mean sometimes saying, no, I can't do this. I'm sorry. Even though I really like to do this, but I can't do this because I got to work on some other shit I got to take care of. Some shit internally, maybe some shit mentally that you have to take care of, right? That's what tough love is as well. Tough love can mean a lot of different things. It can mean a lot of different things from a lot of different people, your family, your friends, like I said, a lot of people want an on-ramp. A lot of people need an on-ramp for a diet perspective. A lot of people need and want and would appreciate an on-ramp from mental health perspective as well. Mental health is more important than your waistline, right? Even though it's connected to your waistline. If you don't think it's connected to your waistline, you haven't experienced it yet, right? I have experienced it. It doesn't mean that I'm happier because I'm thinner. It doesn't mean it, but it does mean that it did stop holding me back in a lot of ways, right? From a physical perspective, I'm sure, right? I'm happier with the way I look. I'm happier with the way I physically look, right? Visually look. I'm happier with the way I perform, right? And I'm happy in because of that, because I'm happy with the way I perform and happy with the way I look. The performance helps me do things that I like to do that are fun for me. The way I look helps me with my confidence because I'm happy with the way I look to my wife, right? The way I look to my children. And that's not even in a like a no means a sexual way, but I want to look healthy to my children, right? I don't think I talk about that enough. I don't think many people talk about that enough, but confidence is one thing. I want to feel good and I want to look good. When I look in the mirror, when I get dressed for work or whatever it is, I want to feel confident that I look good. Whether I'm shaved, I'm not shaving. I mean, these days, hey, who shaves? But I want to look good and I want to feel confident. And I do feel confident when I feel good, when I'm healthy and I'm trimmer and what have you, right? But I'm also more confident and I also want to be healthier and look healthier and perform better rather for my girls, for my children, right? I want them to see me and think, that Papa's healthy, right? I want them to know why I do these things, or if if what I do makes me healthy, and I see it, and I see it from the outside, then it's validating it, right? I mean, I don't need that specific validation, but that's one way of validation. And if I am looking from the outside, like I feel from the inside, right? Then at least I think I'm giving my girls a good idea or a good example, a good idea of what it feels like from a good role model, right? I don't know what the hell I'm doing. No, there's no manual. There's lots of books out there, but nobody knows what the hell's going on. So that's what I think I'm doing. So confidence, right? Confidence comes with repeated success, right? Repeated taking actions, doing them over and over again and having good success with that. And then being able to trust that, being able to trust your knowledge, right? Confidence comes a lot of times from just trusting knowledge. We got to gain knowledge first. And it's physical knowledge. Sometimes when you learn how to do a skill, or mental knowledge when you learn how to do a math skill or a math problem. And then it's emotional knowledge when you learn how to navigate stuff, right? Or when you learn how to deal with an upset. And it's a great example that comes to mind now. It's just when you have an upset or when you have a setback, whether it's a cheat or whether it's a sober October. If you cheated on a sober October, don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up. Don't drink like hell for the next month over it, but don't beat yourself up. Next month or next time you try this, whether it's next month or whether it's next year, remember that. Be smarter, be wiser. Don't beat yourself up, but have some healthy, tough love, right? It's all about having a healthy, tough love, but also incrementally better. Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps, folks, okay? Do it for the babies. It's all for the babies. I want to wrap this thing up. Not too long, excuse me, but I want to wrap this thing up. I want to wrap this thing up on the issue again, or on the idea of love. It takes a village. It takes a village. Folks, I come from a big family. I come from a big European, Canadian family. We have cousins, we have relatives, we have parties, we have birthday parties and first communions and weddings and funerals and everything. And this year, just like everything else, has been really, really weird. It's been really weird for me. It's really, really weird for my mom's family, my dad's family, all my cousins and everybody, because we haven't been able to see each other as much in the same way. We have, excuse me, we have Zoom, we have YouTube, you have all these ways of Skype and FaceTime and all these ways of connecting to each other. Connect with each other, tell them that you love them. Checking calls, however they're called. I'm not sure the right terminology, but check-in, mental health checking calls, whatever they are. You don't have to call them mental health. They're just calling into a family, calling into your brother to tell him, hey, what's up? Or, hey, what's up? Or you make up an excuse, or calling your sisters, hey, this recipe that I had, what do you think about adding this? You could Google it. Of course you could Google it, right? But call your sister, right? Your mom, your dad, perfect example. I call my dad all the time when I'm making some kind of soup or I'm making some kind of meat roast or whatever. I'm like, hey, Pa, what do you think about this? I'm going to make this a little different. And excuse me. I'm gonna make this a little different. And, just a second. All right, I'm back. So yeah, if I call him and I do call him rather to say, I'm going to make this a little different, but what do you think about this or with that? Just get that personal spin on it, right? Really what I'm doing is you're talking to your dad and you have something cool to talk about, and you're just kind of bouncing some ideas. Rarely do I actually take his advice. He's going to kill me when he hears that. But no, and he doesn't even care if I take his advice, because he understands it's all about knowledge. It's all about getting a different perspective, like learning a different way. But what I'm doing when I'm talking to my dad about a recipe is I'm connecting with my dad. I'm telling him I love him, right? Without even telling him I love him, but I'm telling him I love him, and I'm telling him that I respect his opinion, and I'm telling him thank you for always being there. Thank you for being there always, so that I'm comfortable enough over these years, I'm 42, to call you and to say, what do you think about this roast that I already know the answer to anyway, but what do you think? Because I want to talk to you. It's Sunday afternoon and I'm thinking about you. I love you. But what do you think about this roast? Is a good way, right? Same thing with your mom. Same thing. You have a question, a recipe, you're fixing this, you're doing that, you're fixing drywall, whatever it is, you're chopping wood in the backyard, you're going to lay sod, whatever it is. Like, and the same thing goes with just mental health in general. You don't need a reason. You don't need a reason to pick up the phone. You don't need a reason to, especially these days, man, it's so easy. It's so easy to send a message. Hell, as bad as social media, social media gets a bad rap for so many things, and it deserves it for so many things, but it makes it easy. Send a message to somebody. The old days of Facebook, when they first came out, you would send a poke. That was like a wink or like a, hey, what's up? I don't think anybody's poked anybody in a long time. I don't even know if that feature is even there anymore, but it's the idea of saying, hey, what's up? And mental health with nutrition, without nutrition, because it's connected, I'm going to say it's with nutrition. It's the same idea. Whether you're getting a recipe, whether it's a keto recipe, whether it's a carnivore recipe, whether it's a paleo recipe, whether it's just a regular old recipe you're going to get from your mom, a muffin recipe that you're not going to make the muffins, but you just want to talk to your mom, do that. Call your mother, email your mother, whatever it is, right? Because it takes a village, folks. And what you're doing when you're getting that message is you're having a run on the mental health treadmill, right? You're exercising that relationship. You're exercising that. You're lifting the weights of, in a good way. You're exercising the relationship between you and your mother, you and your dad. And relationships is what helps us in our mental health, right? If it takes a village, it's because the relationships in that village strengthen us. Relationships in that village is what keeps us together. It's the love that you get from your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, your paisanos that's like a brother, right? Your Auntie Susie, who's not an auntie, but she's an Auntie Susie, for God's sakes, right? Doug, the cross guard, anybody, right? Mental health is anybody. Mental health affects everybody, right? And you have an opportunity to help someone's mental health, to improve their mental health, or right, to hurt their mental health. You really do have an opportunity every time you interact with somebody. And this, I guess my last point is that, or I guess the last thing I want to say is that, although I may be harping on the sugar, the crap food, the fake food is garbage, the vegan bullshit, the ultra processed food, I'm honest, I still feel that way about all of that, right? I don't think it's great to promote desserts all the time. We live in a society that's overdone it, that has a problem with it. So that's how I feel, right? You can still do it, but I still feel that way. I don't think it's a good idea to promote any of that stuff on a regular basis, but it's a free society. And this is a beautiful thing about the free society, right? I don't think it's good to monocrop, to clear cut, to clear plant, same product, corn, wheat, soy, whatever it is, right? I don't think it's good to do romaine lettuce like that. But people do it, and we do that, and we go on, right? And we go on with life. So it's the balance in this regard, I'm going to say, is about the balance and the support and the village of loving people and supporting people and accepting people and having a healthy relationship with people that you don't agree with, right? That's the last thing I guess I want to talk about. And that comes up a lot, folks. It comes up a lot with me because there are a lot of people who are on a plant-based diet. A lot of people, right? And I have issues with people Not all the time, right? Not everybody that has a plant-based diet I have an issue with, of course, but not everybody that has a plant-based diet I even talk to about it. Not everybody that has a carnivore-based diet or a meat-based diet I agree with. So it's not about that. But I do have some issues with it, right? But what I have to do, and one of the things that I have to kind of learn with about for my mental health, right, is that, and I've heard this a lot, and I've thought this a lot, and I've had to remind is that everybody is on their own journey. Everybody's on. So what I battle, and here's my battle, is that I accept, or I know that everybody's on their own journey, and but it's hard. It's hard to be patient for people, right? It's hard to be patient for people because oftentimes you don't think that. What is it? What is it? What makes it hard for people who feel like they have some answers or feel like they have something that will help you? What's hard for them to hold their to bite their tongue? What's hard for them to hold back? Why is it hard for them? And I think the answer is that you don't want, for me at least, I don't want to miss an opportunity to tell someone something that might help them. That's just the way it is for me, right? And I've had that opportunity in my life, you know, and I don't want to, hopefully I'm not going to get too emotional about it, but there's been times in my life where I've thought, Jesus, just please, please do this. Please, the person that's going through this issue, please do this. Please try this. Please, 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 because it might work. You know, and it's happens, right? It happens every day, and not just about diet, right? I mean, everybody must know somebody that's gone through something in their life, and you thought you had a perspective that might help them, or you thought you had a set of ideas, or a set of tools, or a set of approaches maybe that would help them. And they don't listen. That happens all the time, folks, right? And it happens. It happens all the time. It happens to me. It happens to everybody. You know, I know people that have had, or that you know, all different ideas, right? I mean, the one that hits home to me specifically is, you know, the plant-based diet, right? I know people that went on a plant-based diet that were swearing by the plant-based diet to help them for the ailments they had, like cancer or whatever. And I swore that, you know, to myself, and not to them, of course, but I just prayed, I guess, my version of praying, that they would just see something and try to try and try something different, right? And I'm not going to bring up specific someone's name, but someone I knew, someone I worked with, you know, passed away from cancer, right? And cancer is something that hits home to me, of course, right? Every day I think about it. Every day I think about it because I had it, I didn't have it, I have it now. It's like, you know, I'm living with it, but I'm thriving and I feel good. But it's something, anyway, this person I know, I used to work with, I feel very, very strongly about this person, amazing person, amazing colleague, and went on a plant-based diet, of course. Not of course, but went on a plant-based diet, like many, many people do because they're told to do that. And because there's a lot of grid people that really think it works. I don't know, and I think it potentially might work for some people temporarily. And maybe for some people for a long time. And I just don't, the jury's not out on it, but there's times, and again, this episode is about my mental health, right? There's times where I literally cried, and I cried last week when I found out that she passed, but even way before I found out that she passed, years ago, a year ago. And in fact, this came up with this person because we would talk about the, you know, diet and weight loss and all this stuff. And anyway, without getting into details, it hurt me because, not because this person owed me anything. It's not about me at all, but it hurt me because I felt like I was frustrated. I didn't know what to do. I was sure that at least this thing is working for me. And at least, honestly, I don't know, right? I'm hoping that this thing works for me. And it did so many things for me. And I'm talking about sugar. Sugar has helped me lose a tremendous amount of weight. It has helped me help my joints, help my gut, help my brain, help my emotions, help so many things. And I think it's really helping me with cancer. And I suggested, of course, I want to say, of course, because I feel very strong this about, you know, something like, you know, a meat-based diet or a keto diet, not carnivore rather, but a keto diet at the time. And when I heard, you know, she was going plant-based diet, I wasn't surprised because a lot of people go plant-based, a lot of people go vegan even. And one of the things that I have with the plant-based diet and have with the vegan diet, specifically with cancer, not to go too crazy in this, is that how do you account for carbohydrates when you're eating a plant-based diet? How do you maintain that? How do you monitor that? What's your plan when all you're eating is mostly carbohydrates and some protein, right? And some fat maybe, but a plant-based diet for the most part is a low-fat diet. A low-fat diet is not what you want, as far as everything I've read, when you have cancer. So anyway, it's hard. It was hard for me at times over the years, and it was really hard for me when this person passed away. And it's still hard for me because I see people that are getting better, of course, but I also see people that are sick. And the mental health game that I have to play, or the I don't know, I guess the acceptance, right? Or that I have to wrap my head around the idea is that people are going to do what they think is best. And that's just the bottom line, because I'm just doing what I think is best. And I'm not right. We won't know. Like, we won't know until it's over, right? We won't know until it's over if I'm right. If I live to be 120, then great. Someone can say, we'll probably all live to be 120 if that's the case. But if I live to be 120, then maybe someone can say, good, you did it right. But it was not just good to me, it's everybody else. And like I said, it's I don't deserve any credit for this. And maybe for the same reason why I don't deserve any credit for it, it hurts when I feel like people should be trying it, because I don't suggest it from a personal standpoint. I don't suggest it as my solution. I don't suggest it as my interpretation of what works. But it doesn't. It is what it is. I hate that saying, but it is what it is, right? People get to their own. They get to their own point through their own steps in life, their own obstacles, their own journeys, and they get to their own decision making through their own way as well. So mental health, I hope it's not too long, but it is what it is, right, folks? You love me or you hate me. I love you already, for listening, for watching. Thank you so much for all the likes. Thank you so much for all the shares. It takes a village. It takes a village to keep you healthy. It takes a village to get you healthy. It takes a village to create more healthy people. It really does, right? And when we're not healthy, we need to go to our village. We need to talk to the village elders. We need to talk to the people who know. We need to talk to the people who've been around, right? Like, adults, 30s, 40s, 50s, however we are, the idea to think that we know the answers on mental health issues that we don't talk about. We're not taught in school. We're not taught how to navigate through real life shit. We're not taught about that stuff, right? But we are taught in some regards. We're taught from our family and our friends in kind of subliminal ways, right? We're taught that you always have someone to turn to when your mom says, no matter what, I'll be here for you. When your dad says, no matter what, I'll be here for you. If your mom and if your dad says that, hopefully that's what they mean. And your brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and everybody in your family and your friends that are like family. And I always want to say that, because there are friends, many, many friends that are our family. And I mean that. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It's okay, I'm gonna stop talking. It takes a village, friends. It takes a village to remind us that it takes a village. It takes a village to bring in good food. It takes a village to bring in good ideas and to bring good people together and to create good people and to create more good villages. Thank you so much for listening to Fatso Radio. Thank you so much for watching Fatso Radio, episode number 92, Mental Health. I should do this every so often. Feels good. It feels good to get some stuff off my chest. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to check out Volpe Martial Arts, volpemartialarts.com, KW's hottest, newest Kung Fu and Hapkido martial arts school in town. My brother, Sifu Adam, brings you a lifelong experience, lifelong passion. Check them out, volpemartialarts.com. I love you all. Violet, say thanks to everybody. Thanks for listening. I love you guys. Happy Friday night. Peace. Love you. Happy November. Ooh. All right. I love you all. Let's say bye to everybody. Bye. And we'll say thanks for listening. Say thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Fatso Radio, the really great podcast show.
Fatso Radio, the really great podcast show.
So get your butt and get in your chair.
Don't eat your nails and don't pull your hair.
We'll talk about chicken or talk about steak.
We'll talk about fat, for goodness sake.
Fatso, the really great podcast show.
Fatso, our very first podcast show.